Okay, welcome to video 4 in module 3. And this is where we talk about what could we as parents and guardians do to help make schools more accessible? And what about the teachers and administration? And I think overall it is about kind of teamwork, creating teamwork. So Alicia, what have you got to share?
I'm going to share 7 ways that we can help. So the first one is open communication with staff about the child's strengths, challenges, and strategies that help both at home and at school. And now this is a two-way street, so it goes both ways where um, the people at school can share with the people at home, and the people at home can share with the people at school. And as parents and guardians, it should be our goal to go in meetings and any interactions with staff regulated and wanting to work with them with cooperation in mind. We're all part of the same team. We want to set hopeful intentions. We don't want to be demanding. We want to experience, share, and brainstorm solutions together.
Alicia, part of that open communication is that it can't always happen in meetings and stuff, right? So, of course, having regularly scheduled meetings is a wonderful thing if that's possible in your school and in your child's life. But also, communication can happen through emails, as we know, and some families have a home school communication book, and that is wonderful too. And Alicia, you mentioned that your child's teacher created a checklist. So what would be on that checklist?
Yeah, so my oldest communicates unconventionally, as I say, and can't share easily with his voice or in a way that we can really gather a lot of details. And so the teacher is awesome and made a checklist in a folder. So each day comes home a checklist. It goes through all the subjects and anything that he could possibly do with little areas for notes on talking about, so they can add a little bit of detail. On the side, there are notes for ask me about my, and then any notes, so extra notes that they want to add. So sometimes it'll be like, ask me about my Easter drawing, or and notes like Ollie Ollie got mud on his sweater, or he spent 15 minutes dancing today, like that kind of thing. So it's about really positive things and more than just a basic note or maybe something a little more about a negative or a challenging part of the day. So every day I get something that I can talk to him about.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's not just so these communications back and forth is not just to share about challenges, but it's also to share about successes, right? And when you share with home, you're giving parents a chance to know what they could talk about for school because it can be really difficult, right? It can be difficult if you can't, if you don't, if your child is communicating unconventionally, not in ways that you can always interpret well, then you don't know what's going on and what they're trying because they may be communicating. It might come out in behaviors. Maybe they come home frustrated or elated and you can't relate because you don't know why. But if the school could maybe give you a little bit of guidance around that, then it opens up the ability to have a bit of a bigger conversation, right? And not only are kids sometimes showing us in behaviors, but sometimes they talk in something called gestalt. So that means that they are using a phrase that they've learned, a chunk of words that they've learned to express a feeling about a situation. And they may come home saying something like that, and you will have no idea what that's relating to. So I think you have a really great example about trucks.
Yes. So my oldest really loves all sorts of vehicles. And at the school, sometimes there's really interesting trucks that come along, like delivery trucks and The one time there was a electric truck with a lovely bucket that goes up and down, and it's coming to fix some hydro, hook up a new portable. So hydro it to new portable. But my big guy went out and really wanted to explore this truck. It is super cool, I get it. But obviously not access and can't access that. So yes, so when he came home that day, I mean, I knew about it, so I knew there was something to do with the truck, but we were on the trampoline together, just hanging out, and he looks at me and he's saying, truck chase. And if I didn't know that he had had an experience with a truck at school that day, I may have just, shrugged that off or started talking about trucks of any sort, or maybe just assumed that was not communicating anything with me. But he was using that gestalt to talk about his experience that day with the truck. Um, it was probably very exciting for everybody.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, it's just such an important thing because school communicated with you, you were able to decipher what he was trying to tell you about and expand on that. So that's a really neat thing. Homeschool communication, it goes two ways. So it's just as important for you as a parent to communicate to the school how your morning went or the night before went. That will then set the day and the mood of the day at school, because sometimes kids stuff happens, and it would be good for school to know why your child might be coming in really stressed, which is not like him or something. So stuff like that happens. Okay, so number two.
Yes. So the number two thing that parents could do is cooperate and collaborate with school staff in developing IEPs and any accommodations needed for success at school. Number three, education and training. So share what you know and learn with them. I love doing this. Everything I learn, I try to share with my school team, and I'm always learning, so they're always learning.
And they really like that too, right? Like, because
They
you really
do.
go in with like condensed versions of stuff that you've learned or read about. And I mean, it's not always possible. We don't always all have time to do that. But when you do have something special, that's really helpful to everybody.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Number four, get involved at your school, however way that looks. You can volunteer, you can engage in school activities, you can join committees. You want to establish a positive relationship with teachers and staff at school. It's the importance of giving and receiving. And this doesn't have to look, you don't have to go above and beyond to do a ton of everything possible. It can look as little or as big as you have time for and you have energy for and you can do.
I remember that was actually really special. I had the opportunity to actually volunteer in the school for my kids, and it was very special to me and to my kids too. But it what happened was I got to know the teachers and their style and see how things were going in the class. So it was kind of neat that way. But I also got to know the kids that my kids were interacting with, and that's kind of special too, because then I don't know, you have your eye on the friend situation, for example. So getting involved is great at different levels. And of course, not everybody has the ability to get involved, like being at the school once a week or something. But like you said, Alicia, even little things matter. They do not go unnoticed. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Number five is feedback. So share feedback about what's working and help to find solutions for what's not working. The goal is to be constructive and proactive. Number six is advocate for inclusive strategies. The best strategies are the ones that help all students. And Haida, you have some great books to share.
If you know me, you know that these are the strategies that I'm always saying are great for all kids. So it doesn't matter. what your challenges. These are important for everyone. And then there's another great book here. It's called Self-Reg Schools, which is also something just to take a peek at. And there is actually a website, and I'm going to just share it right now really quickly. Screen share this website if I could find it. Here we go. Stuart Shanker, who was one of the authors on Self-Reg Schools, and also just plain Self-Reg, also has a program on their site, Self-Reg, at the Merit Center, for schools, for helping schools become self-reg havens. And so if you're at all interested in this, I highly recommend looking into that. And we'll have a talk on self-reg another month with Sarah Brown. So I look forward to that.
Okay, and then number 7 is promoting inclusive education, building acceptance and understanding of differences among peers. I'm going to talk a little bit about the double empathy problem. There's an amazing little visual about squirrels and beavers that you can find on Neural Wild. They have Instagram and Facebook, Teachers Pay Teachers, lots of resources. We'll put the link in the resources at the end of the workbook for you to check out. But the double empathy problem is essentially a difference in communication styles. The idea is that generally this talks about autistic people having to always conform to non-autistic communication styles. I'm going to give an example used with my younger son in his classroom. So they were just about to do a presentation, and my little guy was talking to a friend, very matter-of-factly about spelling, and he had noted that this friend was not a very good speller because he could not spell big words, and he was just talking nonchalantly about it. The teacher had brought this up to me and said, "Oh, would you say H?" H was being really unkind to a friend today. He was really telling him, not nice things about his spelling, and like an EA noticed and was like, "Oh, wow." They were making their assumptions about what was going on between these two children. And I guess H did his presentation, had no awareness whatsoever of this other friend's feelings being hurt or anything. And that staff had interpreted that as like, oh, he's just kind of being a bully. He's not being very nice and he doesn't care. And a little bit of thinking, this relates to the double empathy problem because they were assuming that that H had the awareness that he was hurting his friend's feelings, but he didn't. He was just matter-of-factly talking about spelling, which he also struggles with. He wasn't communicating anything other than the words that he was saying. There was no hidden meaning behind it, and the staff and maybe the child were taking more meaning than there was in there. And so I suggested kindly that if this comes up again, maybe this could be a learning experience for the children and the staff. They don't have to automatically assume that he's communicating one thing, and they can all come together to find out what was actually being said, what was being communicated, and they can all learn. My child maybe hurt this other child's feelings, but it wasn't intended. So the child can know that my child wasn't intentionally being mean, but then my child can learn skills of like, how did that affect my friend and how can I make it better? So it can be an all around learning experience, but if we can approach these things as mutual miscommunications rather than, oh, now my child needs to bend to the other's perception of what was going on in this communication, we can all do better in that way.
Oh, thanks for for describing that. Yeah, that must have been hard.
Yeah. So, I just think it's a good learning experience for everybody though, really taking a good look at it, and what's going on in that moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
both
embracing
sides.
yeah,
Both sides are important. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yes. Embracing strengths and interests of autistic students and embracing neurodiversity as a whole is important. All brains are beautiful and unique, and we all have strengths and interests that should be celebrated. Some things that we might do at school is have like neurodiversity week, or we might be celebrating World Autism Awareness and Acceptance Day, World Down Syndrome Day. And we should all be thinking about what can be done on these days and for these events to make them more neurodiversity affirming and accessible. Our language matters. Uh, Saying things like autism is a condition could maybe better be said as a neurodevelopmental brain difference, because a condition might infer that it's a fixable medical condition. Um, yeah, so it might be worthwhile to ask the or autistic families or families with kids with Down syndrome for their feedback. What do they prefer? What did they want? What kind of language did they want used? So if that's possible in a school environment, just getting the feedback, then you'll know more about how better to serve that community.
Thanks. Okay, so this is now your turn for reflection questions. W- These are the questions that we have in your workbook. How have I, or what have I done to support school staff in creating more accessible spaces for my child or student or client? And is there anything else I would do now? So we look forward to you sharing. That's the end of part one of our accessibility workshop. Part two will be all about preparing your child and finding accessible spaces. So we look forward to seeing you for those modules. But until then, check out your workbook and we'll have that open discussion next week.